There once was a town that bordered a thick wood, and in this town, just when the sun was near setting, and its last lingering rays cast the whole world in a golden glow, the inhabitants would hear the strange ringing of a distant bell. It only ever lasted for an instant, and yet the people of the town often said to one another, "I wonder if there's a church out in the wood." The bell has indeed a strange, sweet sound, but none could ever determine its origin.
On this day in particular, it was a confirmation day for the children of the town. It was indeed a very important day for them, for they were all at once transformed from mere children to grown-up people. The day of growing up is indeed a most solemn day amongst all days of our life, almost as solemn as the day in which we die. There's a kind of death to leaving childhood behind. Death and growth are both last days, holy, great days of transformation.
The thing you must understand is that transformation is painful. The thing you must understand is that the consequence for a life lived is always death.
On this particular day, this last first day, the sun shone most brightly, and the sound of the great unknown bell could be heard more clearly and more distinctly than ever. The children set forth to at last find the source of the mysterious beckoning bell.
All except me. What is that sound?
It's the bell. The same one?
What else would it be?
I was hoping it was a different one.
It's the same bell ringing the same sound because we are stuck in the same place forever. They say a boy from the village found the bell. They say he searched for many days and many nights, climbing his way through the thicket and the branches and the briars until he reached the treetops. At last he saw God ringing his holy bell above our city.
Who says that?
The people.
What people?
The people who saw the boy who saw the bell.
Why are we stuck here?
Because our skirts got caught in the branches. Because we are women now. Under the eyes of God, we are no longer children, so can no longer be free. And now we're being punished for still doing childish things.
But the boy who found the bell, he was with us at confirmation. Why can he run through the woods? Why is he free?
Because of our confirmation dresses. Because they are so heavy and the lace so easily torn.
I hate this old dress.
Don't say that! You mustn't say that!
How long have we been stuck here?
Since the beginning of time. We are being punished.
Walk so deep into the trees that we can no longer see them. Do they find the bell?
We have to be silent.
Not a single sound? Not even to cry?
Especially not to cry. We must do what we are told. Haven't you heard the story of the girl?
Didn't know there were stories about girls.
I've only heard the story of the boy and the bell. There are other stories. Not just about boys and bells. Stories about bodies. Blood and bad things, and birds, and broken hearts and broken bones, and about feet, and sweat and skin, and slicing, and blood, and dead things, and things that are too beautiful, and about feet, and also there are stories about death.
Are those the stories about girls?
Yes, they're warnings. There's a story about a girl who was confirmed, just like us. Warning bells!
Please, no more bells!
A story then. A fairy tale. Stories about girls, like us. And about things that are too beautiful. Like the girl who was confirmed, also like us. But then who gave in to herself and let herself be too loud, just like us. Our time is the time of fairy tales.
We have to be quiet. We can't let them hear us.
Once upon a time, there was a girl who was pretty and dainty. She was not a princess, but she thought she might as well have been. She was, after all, quite beautiful. Everyone told her so. What a pretty little thing, they said. But when she looked in the mirror, she knew she was more than that. She was spectacular. She was as bright and as bold as the moon. She could feel herself extend far beyond her body, beyond her gleaming eyes, beyond her slender feet, beyond her long fingers. And so she danced. It was the only way she could get big enough to meet her own vast edges. She reached for her boundaries and found none. She was endless, inevitable, eternal. She felt that something was missing in the world around her. It was never big enough for her to exist within. And so she danced.
When I was very young, the world was younger than I, as merry as a carousel. The circus tent was strung with every star in the sky, above the ring I loved so well. Now the young world has grown old. Gone are the tinsel and gold. Sit there and count your fingers. What can you do? Old girl, you're through. Sit there and count your little fingers. No use, old girl. You might as well surrender. Your hopes are getting slender. Sit there and count the raindrops falling on you. It's time you knew. All you can count on are the raindrops that fall on little girl blue.
The girl had grown up very poor, but had been taken in by a rich older lady who gave her everything she could desire. And on the day of her confirmation, the day she was to transform from a boundless girl into something else altogether, something bound and quiet, the rich older lady took her to buy some new shoes. Some simple black ones will do, the old lady said, as she was quite sensible and quite concerned with the opinions of the other ladies at church. But the old lady could not see very well, and so she could not see what the girl chose instead. Because the girl could see, she was consumed with seeing. And in that little shoe shop, her keen, glittering eyes zeroed in on a beautiful, magnificent, divine pair of red shoes. She put on the red shoes, and she began to dance. Everyone watched her, and she reveled in being watched. And everyone said as she danced past, "Dear me, what beautiful dancing shoes!" And on she danced, thinking only of her shoes and how at last she had found something that could contain the immensity that was her. And she forgot all about the church and her confirmation.
Where does the river go when it flows so deep into the woods and so far beyond the trees that we can no longer see it?
We're not supposed to know about wet things.
Where does the river go when it makes the sound of rushing, running things? When it makes the sound of our sweat? When it makes the sound of our blood?
Where does the river go when it makes the sound of our dreams? Our dreams are sleeping.
It flows far away.
To Paris? Even farther than that.
What could be further than Paris?
Where does the river flow?
It flows to the ocean.
Are we supposed to know about the ocean?
We're not supposed to know about wet things.
And yet we cannot help but hear the sound of the water as it pours into the ocean.
Our time is a time of fairy tales.
Far out in the ocean, where the water is as blue as the prettiest cornflower and as clear as crystal, it is very, very deep. So deep that no length of rope could fathom it. Many church steeples, piled one upon another, would not reach from the ground beneath to the surface of the water above. But we must not imagine that there is nothing at the bottom of the sea but sand. No. Indeed, the most singular flowers and plants grow there. Fishes, both large and small, glide between the branches as birds fly among the trees here upon land. And in the deepest spot of all live the mermaids. If you listen to their songs with your regular human ears, they will not sound like much. They will sound grating, like crying, almost like screaming. But if you listen closely, if you can learn to hear a different kind of voice, you will understand that their songs are the most beautiful in the universe, and the stories they have to tell the most important ones of all. If you listen, you can hear them now. Amongst the mermaids, there were 6 beautiful little sea princesses, but the youngest was the prettiest of them all. Her skin was as clear and delicate as a rose leaf, and her eyes as blue as the deepest sea. But, like all the others, she had no feet, and her body ended in a fish's tail.
Ships that go sailing.
dead? Why don't they have souls?
This is also what the Little Mermaid wondered. She said, I would give gladly all the 100 years I have to live to be a human being only for one day, and to have the hope of knowing the happiness of that glorious world above the stars.
The ocean was too small. How could the ocean be too small?
Growing up in the sea, the Little Mermaid had only a little tiny plot of ground to call her own, where she might dig and plant as she pleased. She was a strange child, quiet and thoughtful, and she had almost nothing in the small garden, except for a beautiful stone statue of a handsome boy which had fallen to the bottom of the sea from a shipwreck. Nothing gave her so much pleasure as did her handsome statue, except, of course, to hear about the world above the sea.
Beyond the sea, he's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to his arms I'd go sailing. It's far beyond the stars, it's still beyond the moon. I know beyond the dawn, my heart will lead me there soon.
When each little sea princess turned 15, she was allowed to rise up to the surface to see the world above. When her older sisters rose, one by one, their youngest sister would stand quite alone, looking after them, ready to cry. Only the mermaids have no tears, and so they suffer more with nothing to wash the sorrow from their insides. But at last she reached her 15th year. She was all grown up now. Up she swam, as fast as her tail could take her. When once she surfaced, she swam as close to the shore as she dared. And there she saw him, beautiful young prince, who looked so very much like her little statue.
Suddenly, she could think of nothing but this little prince.
She could think of nothing but her pretty red shoes
She became consumed
until she was nothing but desire.
Isn't there anything she can do to obtain an immortal soul?
No. Unless a man were to love her so much that all his thoughts and all his love were fixed upon her.
But this could never happen.
And a priest would place his right hand in hers, and all his soul would flow into her. This could never happen. Her fish's tail was thought to be quite ugly by the human beings who lived upon the earth, who couldn't imagine what it would be like to exist without 2 legs and 2 feet. The Little Mermaid discovered that what she wanted more than anything, more even than a soul, was a pair of human feet. So she swam.
She swam to the sea witch to beg for some feet.
I know what you want,
said the sea witch.
It is very stupid of you, but you shall have your way, and it will bring you to sorrow, my silly sea princess. I will help you tear yourself apart, but nothing comes for free. I must be paid.
But how can I pay you? Asked the Little Mermaid.
You have the sweetest voice of any who dwell here in the depths of the sea. This voice you must give to me,
said the witch.
Why, your beautiful form, your graceful walk, and your expressive eyes. Surely with these you can enchain a man's heart.
And the witch cut open her own chest, from which poured blood as thick as sludge and as fragrant as rotten fish, and spilled this into her open hands. She held her hand up to the Little Mermaid's mouth and submerged her in the substance. Then, in one swift motion, grabbed hold of the Little Mermaid's tongue and cut it off at the base. The Little Mermaid's mouth blood mixed and swirled in the sea witch's ooze, and the Little Mermaid watched it disappear as she rose up and up toward the land until she burst forth from the surface of the water, gasping desperately for breath as her little gills filled with air and sand.
But just as she thought she might die for want of breath, she suddenly felt a far worse pain, a pain which drowned out any other, as if a sword were sawing through her. She felt her skin peeling off in large, blubbery chunks, her scales molting in a pile of bloodied seaweed.
She looked down and saw that her tail had begun to disappear. It had begun to wither and shrink up into legs.
She felt great pain, but all who saw her would say that she was the prettiest little human being they ever saw.
She retained the same floating gracefulness of movement with which she swam through the sea, and it was said that no dancer did ever tread as lightly and ably as she. And so she danced. But every step felt as if she were treading upon sharp knives. All that pain, and she couldn't even make a sound. She stayed silent, unable even to cry. And with each step, she remembered the sea witch's parting words as she was sucked up to the shore.
Once your shape has become like a human being, you can never again be a mermaid. You will never return to the water. And if you do not win the love of the prince, then you will never have an immortal soul. The first morning after he marries another,
your heart will break, and you will become foam on the crest of the waves.
And so she danced, her feet encased in the red shoes like a second skin. But when she danced, she found she could not stop. She danced into the dark woods beyond the churchyard, and there she saw the moon shining through the tops of the trees. And then the face in the moon morphed until it was something altogether grotesque, and it said, "Dance you shall. Dance in your red shoes till you are pale and cold, till your skin shrivels up and you are a skeleton. Dance you shall, from door to door where proud and wicked children live, so that they may hear you and fear you. Dance you shall."
Someday, when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you, in the way you look tonight. Lovely, don't you ever change. keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it, 'cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Just the way you look.
The mistake she made was wanting to be beautiful.
The mistake she made was wanting to be a woman. Why would anyone choose to be a human woman?
Didn't she realize how much blood would be involved?
Wasn't a human soul.
A human soul is overrated.
The mistake they made was trying to transform.
They should have been satisfied with what they had. They should have just been grateful.
The mistake they made was thinking that transformation is always painful.
The thing they should have understood is that transformation is just another kind of death.
What is the answer to death?
Stop asking so many questions!
Where do the trees go?
The mistake they made was asking questions.
Where do the birds go?
The mistake they made was wanting to dance.
Where does the river go?
The mistake they made was wanting more.
Where would you go if you could go anywhere?
Paris? Don't go to Paris, it will be a ruin. Oh, the mistake they made was wanting to go somewhere. The mistake they made was wanting anything at all.
What was our mistake?
Wanting to find the bell. Wanting to go somewhere.
What is that sound?
Oh, how long have we been here? Since the beginning of time. Since the end of time.
We've been tangled in the thorns forever.
Pretty dresses were made for climbing trees. What does that sound? It's coming from the trees.
Coming from the river.
Is it the bell? Listen.
Remember.
Oh, it's the bird! It's the sound of the bird! Why are they so loud? Scream and scream!
I don't like the birds. They're too loud. Why do they cry remember us without me? It's alright. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Remember without me.
If only we could break free from these brambles.
The tree is absorbing us.
Our bones are becoming branches.
I wish I could dissolve into air.
Or sea foam.
I wish I could fly.
I wish we could walk.
Where would we go? Paris? Paris. We are going to the exhibition in Paris.
Now we're there. With speed.
With haste. Without any kind of sorcery. We traveled by steam, on ships, along railways. Our time is the time of fairy tales. You know, we weren't the first girls to be bound by trees.
There are others?
There are always others. Inside every tree is a girl. And inside one tree in particular, there was a girl who longed to go to Paris. Paris.
Once there was a chestnut tree, and inside that chestnut tree lived a little wood nymph. She was happy with her life in the country, but the birds were big gossips, and they talked about the village, the vineyards, the forests, and most of all, they talked about Paris. was once a human girl who loved to dance. When she was old enough, she went to Paris. She too had heard the stories. She used to sit beneath the wood nymph's tree with the other children, and the old priest would come out and tell them stories about the city of cities, the city where great men were made, the city where freedom was born. The priest was so disappointed when the girl left for Paris. "It will be a ruin, little girl," he told her. If Paris ruins little girls, who is all that freedom for? Thought the wood nymph. That's when she started dreaming about feet. Time moves differently when you're a tree. So to say that the wood nymph spent an entire month trying to imagine what it would feel like to have legs would not be an exaggeration. The wood nymph didn't have eyes, not like we do, so she couldn't close them, but she focused as hard as she could on the deepest part of herself, and then on her farthest stretching roots, and tried to feel what it might be like to move. She might have been content to imagine if it weren't for the birds. They were, after all, such big gossips. They taunted her with their flight. They flitted back and forth to Paris as if it was nothing at all. And always they would say, "Don't go to Paris, little wood nymph, it will be your ruin." They fluttered and chirped around the wood nymph, who was rooted within her chestnut tree to the wet, unchanging grounds of the French countryside. And they mocked. "We're going to the exposition in Paris. Now we are there. What speed, what haste." I would give anything to go to Paris, thought the wood nymph. I would give anything to move. And soon her wish became an intense desire, the one singular thought of her life. She didn't need to fly like the birds, she just wanted to walk a little. She just wanted to take a few human steps. She just wanted some feet. One night, as the wood nymph was dreaming of Paris, a spark fell from the sky, and in front of the tree stood a magnificent, luminous figure. "You will go to the city of enchantment," it said. "There you will take root, sense the rushing currents, the air, and sunlight. But you poor, weak wood nymph, it will be your ruin. Your longing will grow. Your craving, your demands become stronger. The tree itself will become a prison for you. You will abandon your husk to fly out and mix with the human beings. Then your years will dwindle to half the lifetime of a mayfly, to a single night." But the wood nymph simply said, "I'm going to the city of cities. Life is just beginning." Billowing like a cloud.
No one knows where it will lead.
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. 3 little birds pitched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, "This is my message to you."
reaching out its branches towards her, crying, "Take me along! Take me along!" Inside of every tree lives another wood nymph, filled with yearning. The thing you have to remember about transformation is it's always a kind of death.
The thing you have to remember is that it always involves blood.
The first morning after you marry another, your heart will break, and you will become foam on the crest of the waves.
I'm getting married next week. For once, please, let this be the moment. Let this be the time you choose to speak. At least look at me. I'm sorry. Truly, I am. I didn't mean to hurt you. Goodbye. All you had to do was speak.
I love you.
Little sister!
All she wanted was to go to heaven. All she wanted was some feet.
We have given our hair to the sea witch so she would help us and you wouldn't have to die tonight. She gave us a knife. See how sharp it is? If by the time the sun sets you stab the prince in the heart, when his warm blood drips onto your feet, they'll grow together into a fish's tail and you'll be a mermaid again. Either he or you must die before the sun comes up.
All she wanted was for him to love her the same way she loved him.
But he fell in love with someone else.
She gave up her voice for him.
But he didn't care.
She gave up her life for him.
So take his. Either he or you must die tonight.
You can't be heartbroken if you're seafoam. You can't be sad if you don't exist.
You can't be heartbroken in Paris. Everything is beautiful in Paris.
There once was a girl who danced all the way to Paris in a pair of beautiful red shoes.
All she wanted to do was feel pretty.
All she wanted was a pair of legs.
All she wanted to do was dance.
And so she danced.
The shoes carried her forward, and unceasingly she had to dance. She danced through the dark night. The shoes bore her away over thorns and stumps, till she was all torn and bleeding. She danced over sharp rocks, and with every slice of her skin she was reminded of the thing that had undone her, her desire and her expansiveness. If only she had been satisfied to stay a little small. The blood must flow. The blood must flow.
The blood must flow.
On she danced until she came upon a house where the executioner lived. "Come out," she cried, "and cut off my feet with the red shoes." And so the executioner cut off her feet with the red shoes.
The blood must
Then
flow.
let it be mine.
The blood
And
must
all
flow.
she wanted to do was dance.
Dance you shall.
And when the wood nymph reached Paris at last, she saw a glittering portal open to reveal a magnificent garden where all was brightness. And the sounds of dance music penetrated, an ear-tickling, intoxicating music that sent the blood coursing through the veins. Beautiful girls in festive attire floated to and fro in the wild dance. Where were the heads? Where the feet?
Where were the heads?
As if stung by tarantulas,
As if stung by tarantulas,
laughed,
rejoiced,
as if in their ecstasies they were going to embrace all the world. The wood nymph felt herself torn with them into the whirl of the dance.
And so she danced.
She danced in Paris. And the wood nymph twirled and dipped and leaped and let out a sigh, which rose up like a prayer. Take from me all my years of life, and give me but half of the life of the ephemeral fly.
Release me into the darkness of nothingness.
Into the darkness of nothingness. Only deliver me from my prison.
Remember.
Give me human life and human happiness for only one night. And punish me then for my longing, for my bold love of life. Obliterate me.
Turn me to ash. Turn me into sea foam.
Hack off my feet. Only let me taste the essence of a life lived. Only let me dance.
Only let me dance.
Become one. Freaky creatures, monster party. Eyes of yellow, scales and feathers, tails and tethers. Turn the lights off. Bend the nightmare, you control it. Artful dodger, easy does it. Shut the closet, get under the covers. Snakes and lovers, turn the lights off. Everybody likes to get taken for turns, to see how bright the fire inside of us burns. Everybody wants to get evil tonight, but all good devils masquerade under the light. Here's the pinky, there's the kinky. Everybody complicated. Man and woman, baby child, calm and wild. Turn the lights off. Don't remember what we look like. Young girl holding one another. Paper colors dangle streaming, tangle screaming. Turn the lights off. Everybody likes to get taken for turns, to see how bright the fire inside of us burns. And everybody wants to get evil tonight, but all good devils masquerade under the light. Take it, should be stronger. Books abandoned, breathe the water. Mind distracted, sons and daughters out for slaughter. Turn the lights off. Don't you like it? I know I do. How about you? What do we know? Tiny patterns, hypnotizing, terrorizing. Turn the lights off. Everybody likes to get taken for turns, to see how bright the fire inside of us burns. And everybody wants to get evil tonight, but all good devils masquerade under the light. The diamonds twinkle brightly, dance in darkness, blow the nights off. Sleepy child, spark desire, walk the fire.
Remember. 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 Remember.
Birds are back! He was satisfied to stay home and now put for the birds! It's now but a bird all the time! The birds, they scream from the branches of the tree! They scream with human voice and now wonder if it's yes, remember it's now me! They wail that they are all the evil thoughts and desires of our lifetimes that shout so and
do remember. I remember all my wants and all my desires. I remember everything. I remember the other young girls leaping and prancing and laughing and smiling. 100 young wood nymphs with red lips and red shoes and red roses in their hair and dresses torn from a million thorns that could not stop them dancing. I remember Paris. I remember that we were wild, all us young, great women in Paris. 101 twirling butterflies gliding too close to the sun, doomed to fall back to the earth to die. Even as the exhaustion began to settle in, even as we knew we were drawing our last ever breaths, even in death, we kept dancing. I remember feeling all sorts of things, but I don't remember ever feeling sorry.
It's the sound of the bell.
We followed it all the way here.
What is that sound?
It was the sound of the insides of our souls.
How was the sound of the bell all along? I never got my soul. I'm nothing more than sea foam.
Then let it be me, the little mermaid said, and she threw the knife into the ocean and closed her eyes, waiting to dissolve into sea foam.
But the little mermaid did not feel death. Above her hovered hundreds of lovely, transparent creatures. Without wings, they floated through air, carried by their own lightness.
The little mermaid saw that she had a body like theirs. It was rising higher and higher into the sky. Who am I joining? She asked.
The daughters of the air,
the others replied. A mermaid has no immortal soul unless she wins the love of a human being. Her eternal life depends on an outside power.
The daughters of the air have no souls either, but through good deeds, they can create one.
And the little mermaid raised her clear arms up toward the sun, and for the first time she felt tears.
And the wood nymph felt herself dissolve and saw her form irradiated in changing colors, like a tear that falls and disappears like a vapor.
And the girl with no feet collapsed and heard the sound of the inside of her soul, and felt the warm, wet stream of her own leaking tears, and her heart became so filled with sensation, so filled with peace and joy, that it broke.
And the three girls tore themselves free from the thorns at last,
caring not for their tattered dresses, caring not even for their tattered skin,
caring only for their freedom.
They did not know from what exactly they were breaking free, only that they needed to break.
Their feet were lashed and lacerated, marked forever by the brambles and branches which made up their prison. Their feet were a reminder of all they had sacrificed to search for the sound of something more.
tried so very hard.
Heaven does not want us. No one wants us. We are the ones who want. We are doomed to long forever. That is our punishment. And that is our reward.
So that's it? We're just gonna dissolve into dust? Disappear?
No, we won't disappear. We'll go to Paris.
Paris.
Take my hand. Let's hold one another. We are at Paris at last, where everything is beautiful.
We're going to the exposition.
Now we're there.
What speed, what haste, without any kind of sorcery. We traveled by steam, by ships, and along railways.
Steam is nothing more than water that has turned into air.
Our time is the time of fairy tales.
And fairy tale girls always die at the end.
They die for their sins.
At least we're in Paris.
Yes. At least we're in Paris.
On this particular day, on this, the last day, the sun shone most brightly, and the sound of the great unknown bell could be heard more clearly and more distinctly than ever.
The children set forth to at last find the source of the mysterious beckoning bell.
All except 3, who soon could no longer hear the sound of the bell over the sound of the birds, who really were terrible gossips. The hollow bell tones drowned beneath the rich notes of the screaming birds who sang the songs of restless souls. The souls of the girls who wanted more, who wanted too much. The girls who wouldn't feel sorry.
The bell got lost after they learned how to listen to something more. To the women in the water and the women trapped in trees, it got lost beneath the sound of their laughter and their glorious crying tears, and the beautiful bellowing of their voices.
The sound got lost under the rhythm of their running, dancing feet, and soon they forgot all about the bell. They were too busy dancing.
Car ma vie, car mes joies, aujourd'hui, ça commence.